The Indian e-commerce pioneers behind Snapdeal built their company from nothing to a valuation in the billions before investors backed out. Now they're taking on Amazon and Walmart to revive Snapdeal on their own terms and with their own money. India Tech Titans on BBC World News.
India, a country on the move, with one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Nearly everyone is getting online and wants to shop. But joining the race to be an Indian e-commerce champion can be bumpy. And no one has ridden that roller coaster harder than the founders of Snapdeal. From humble beginnings,
we actually didn't know how to run that business,
to hitting the big time and losing it again.
Both of us personally, as well as for our families, I think it was a pretty rough time.
This is the very Indian tale of Snapdeal. How to win big, lose big, and then start growing again, but this time on your own terms. Our story begins with two school friends and a love of food. Kunal Bhal and Rohit Bansal may have bonded over what was in their tiffin tin, but their friendship has lasted decades and endured the trials of running a business through good times and bad. Rohit remembers the day when both of them decided it was time to become entrepreneurs.
While it was his brother's wedding, on most of the sidelines of the events, both of us were chatting with each other in terms of what we can do. We should start a business, we should start thinking seriously about it. And I remember pretty much the day the wedding events ended, the next day I was at his home and both of us were holed in a room for four full days, just coming out with business idea, what should we do, how should we build it, who should we talk to.
The big idea in 2008 was discount coupons. They would win discounts from big companies and sell them in books and magazines to eager customers.
And we saw that India's physical retail was growing. Couponing, which is a multi-billion dollar industry in the US and in the West, was practically non-existent in India. And I think as 23 years old, that's all the validation you need to become an entrepreneur.
But things didn't quite work out.
I first met Kunal in 2008. I did not fund him. I was arguing. I liked the team. I liked both Kunal and Rohit. We were very impressed. And I kept pushing that why can't you do the same thing on a website or an SMS? And Kunal was like, no, I want to do my booklet.
We started as a coupon book company. That didn't work. Then we did a SMS-based coupons. There was no mobile internet in 2008, 2009. Then that didn't work. Then we did a discount card, like a credit card you show and you get a discount, and that didn't work. And then finally, in early 2010, we launched Snapdeal, but that had nothing to do with selling products. It actually sold coupons, the same very coupons we were selling in a magazine. Those coupons were being sold online. And that started seeing some good traction. But that wasn't the end of that journey. Our business continued to evolve. Within about a year or so, while that business as Snapdeal was very successful, but we started realizing that it will likely not become a very big business in the long run. So in end of 2011, Rohit and I went to China. And what we saw there really stunned us. The scale of e-commerce, which is people selling products on e-commerce platforms, was truly incredible.
In 2011, the number of people online in China was almost 10 times more than web users in India. But there were pioneers in India, including Flipkart, the biggest homegrown e-commerce company. It launched in 2007 from the home of its founder and was now well ahead of the competition.
So the early years clearly belonged to Flipkart. They were the innovators. They brought in a lot of innovation, including connecting technology to the logistics space, getting cash on delivery, getting the technology on the website to work.
Flipkart's founders Binny Bansal and Sachin Bansal were onto something really big. Flipkart sold products worth $1 billion to Indian customers in 2011. Indians were buying online like never before, and Kunal and Rohit wanted a bite of that business. But there was a crucial problem.
We actually didn't know how to run that business in the beginning. It was every day showing up to work and figuring out, okay, how is an e-commerce business in which you have to physically deliver something work? Because until then we had never done that.
To compete with Flipkart, someone would have to cut Snapdeal a big check. Enter SoftBank, the Japanese investment company that wanted a slice of the lucrative e-commerce pie in India and injected a whopping $627 million into Snapdeal.
SoftBank came in. SoftBank's founder, Masayoshi Son, who was a huge investor, first investor in Alibaba, saw Snapdeal as being the Alibaba of India. That really was a big sort of endorsement for Snapdeal. From there on, it could sort of challenge Flipkart because it had the backing of SoftBank.
Snapdeal snapped up smaller companies that helped fuel its growth over the next few years. 2015 was the year when everything seemed possible for the duo. Proof that the company had arrived, they signed on Amir Khan, a Bollywood superstar, as their brand ambassador. The media called them unicorns, and at one point they were valued at $6.5 billion. But competition was intense. No matter how hard Snapdeal tried, Flipkart maintained its top spot. At its very peak, Snapdeal was being celebrated as a company that was set up by two boys who came from nowhere to found a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Yet, the lives of technology companies can be fickle. Within just another year, the company didn't just face regular problems, but a full-blown existential crisis. The company had sluggish growth and was losing market share. Kunal and Rohit reportedly stopped taking a salary. But why did it all go wrong?
Well, the easy answer is Amazon. The short answer is also Amazon. From 2013 to 18, it's been 5 years. Amazon has, particularly in the early years of Amazon, 2014, 15, 16, and even part of 17, Amazon largely took over the market share of Snapdeal. Now, there were multiple factors. One of them was that Amazon was discounting very heavily. Second factor could have been that Snapdeal was not really as strong in logistics and technology as Amazon was. Snapdeal also was a very young company, which had grown very fast. Final nail on the coffin came when Snapdeal could not raise further money.
That actually was a pretty hard time for us. We had failed multiple times in the journey of our business while building this business, but this time it was a little more different because one, the company was already at a much larger scale. The number of people we employed were much more, and as a result, the public nature of the failure was also a lot more played out. Which no matter how many hardships you've gone through, I think it just escalates the level of pressure on yourself to be able to perform and to be able to persevere through this. So I think both of us personally as well as for our families, I think it was a pretty rough time.
Snapdeal's backers were getting cold feet.
It became like a house of cards, sometime in 2016. They did not have growth to show. They did not have investor interest, and they did not have their biggest backer, SoftBank, pushing for them.
One of the things that happens in India with Indian entrepreneurs, which to some extent happened with us as well, is that as you start becoming successful, you look at many of the other successful businesses across the world in their present stage, whether it's the likes of Facebook, Google, etc., 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 and you see that all these companies have many businesses. They are not in one business; they are in 10 businesses, and you somehow start thinking that, hey, look, we are probably a successful business as well. Why don't we also start doing 10 things? What one fails to realize is I would say all of these companies focused on one business first for many years, made it phenomenally successful, phenomenally profitable, and then they chose to reinvest those profits to build other lines of business. And what we are seeing of them today is, after 15-20 years of evolution of those businesses. In India, what started happening was people started, and companies and entrepreneurs started declaring success way too early, before having made it profitable, before having grown and solidified their position in one thing. They start thinking that, look, this is already successful, so let's start doing 10 other things.
It looked like the end of an independent Snapdeal. There was talk that Snapdeal would be merged with Flipkart for a price far less than the $6.5 billion valuation the company had just a short while ago.
At that point is when really that existentialist sort of crisis hit them. Whether they would even stay, as a company once they're folded into Flipkart, like what happens. So that was really the crucial sort of moment, which was longer than what anyone would have anticipated it to sort of last. Yeah.
The talks of that merger continued for months, but the deal didn't really materialize. Reports suggest that arch-rival Flipkart offered $850 million in the summer of 2017 to buy Snapdeal, in what was headlined as a blockbuster deal. In the end, though, the founders chose to pursue an independent path.
Our view was that we need to look at our business model very, very closely and say, can we run this business more efficiently? And at the same time, grow it rapidly. As a result of that period of painful discovery, we've actually now created what is the healthiest position for the company since our business started probably 11 years ago.
The founders call this Snapdeal 2.0. Snapdeal sold its mobile payments business for $60 million, which gave them financial ammunition to keep the business afloat. And this is what Snapdeal 2.0 looks like, a company that employs far fewer people now, from over 8,000 plus at its peak to less than 1,000 now. To the tune of some Bollywood music, employees let their hair down, and the founders say that things have become better for Snapdeal and they have become cash flow positive. Snapdeal has survived to tell the tale and now has refocused the business on customers they say they always wanted to target in the first place.
We were very clear that we want to focus on the merchandise that is not being sold by probably other market players in this space, which was mostly expensive smartphones and expensive branded fashion. India's retail is about $800 billion, out of which $400 billion is grocery and $400 billion is non-grocery, anything else, right? Like shoes, clothes, computers, phones, etc. Out of the remaining, that 400 billion, not even 100 billion is actually branded goods. Most of them are locally manufactured or imported, but not really what you would call the traditional big brands, traditional global brands. But most of that merchandise, which is transacted in the value of $300 billion a year, is not online yet. It is being bought by consumers in the local markets of India, local bazaars of India. Our view was that let's get this merchandise online.
But the road ahead is tough. Flipkart, the Indian company that led the e-commerce revolution in India, has been bought by Walmart, making e-commerce in India a two-horse race between two American giants, Walmart and Amazon. Is there enough space for Snapdeal to carve a niche for itself?
We are now thinking that there will be multiple players in e-commerce. Some of them will be very large, like Amazon and Flipkart. As the market matures, the market goes deep, I think Snapdeal has a chance to figure out one of the pieces of the market.
It's still a far cry, like we don't know how this will go. But right now, because they're not dependent on investor capital and outside money, they can chart their own future. If they stay lean and they sort of prune their costs, they are into categories which do not require you to burn cash and discount. they may have a future.
They faced hard times before and they're determined to get through them in the future.
What is more important, we've realized, is during this period of acute amount of uncertainty, you have to remind yourself that one, success is never permanent and failure is also rarely fatal, right? But what you need as a team is the courage to continue when things are really bad. And just mustering that courage in that time of deep crisis is what counts.